All right. Well, I think it's time to go ahead and kick things off. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for supporting us and joining this first ever virtual cocktail hour at Highside. Really happy to be hosting this tonight, and hopefully we have the opportunity to do this a number of more times in the future to engage our friends from afar, and especially during this crazy period right now, we can't be physically here in the tasting room. But long term, hopefully we can do these in the tasting room and have some in-person cocktail classes. So with that being said, for those of you who I have not met, I'm Matt Glenn. I will be your resident bartender this evening, walking you through the process for making 3 of our favorite tasting room cocktails here. I'd also like to introduce the second 2/3 of the Highside Distilling crew here.
Hey.
That's observing social distancing.
Welcome.
Helen and Jeff, my folks. So thank you. There will be our barbacks as well as our cocktail testers this evening. And our lovely co-host and executive producer, Ashley Dowd, who is sitting beneath the camera right now, and hopefully we'll see her later. So a few quick logistical things for today. So we've got everybody muted right now just while we go through the cocktails. If you do have a question that comes up while you're making the cocktail that's hanging you up, just enter that in the chat window. We'll try and get to that as soon as we can. If we don't get to it during the actual demo, we've got some time built in between the different cocktails that we can actually pause, answer any questions, talk about some updates to the distillery, and enjoy some tasty bevies. So additionally, I know a lot of people are on video, so I would encourage you, if you are able to, and willing to put yourselves on video. We'd love to see what you're making, and we'd also love to do a virtual cheers after the first cocktail, so we can throw that up on the gram. It didn't appear on social media, it didn't happen, so we'd love to get that out there. Okay, so quickly, a bit of background on what we're going to do today. We do have a packed agenda. We got 3 tasty cocktails as well as 1 mocktail, sans alcohol, that we're going to go through. Acknowledging that is a lot of booze and a bit of an aggressive drinking pattern for 1 hour. Feel free to select and pick and choose which cocktails you'd like to make, or make them all and drink them or share them with close friends and family, whatever your speed is tonight. Additionally, we've got a few different cocktail techniques we're going to go through as well. So each different cocktail plays on a different technique. So we've got a shaken cocktail, we've got a stirred cocktail. We use one that employs a dry shake technique for the sour, which is kind of fun. So we'll walk through all those and do that before we actually get into making the cocktail itself. So we're going to start things off with one of our favorite refreshing summertime drinks with our Amaro Rosina, the Pretty in Pink. We'll start there, and then we're going to move into our mocktail, the Tropical Bee's Knees, with pineapple, honey, lemon, and soda water. Very refreshing. And if you'd like, I'll add a twist in there where you can use gin in place of one of the ingredients to make that a bit boozier. We're also going to do a Amaro Sour, which is probably the more complex of the 3 cocktails we'll make, but I'll walk you guys through that process, and then we'll finish things off with a classic Highside Negroni. So that, all in all, should take us close to the hour. And if we have time at the end, we'd love to stay on the line and chat with you all and sip some drinks. So let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, I'm sure everyone has already washed their hands multiple times. If not, we have, where's my sanitizer? Right here. A little sanitizer spray real fast, making sure I got a sanitary workstation. So setting up the bar for the Pretty in Pink. So I've got my bar mats here. Love using these because, especially with the syrups, they can get kind of sticky on the countertop, and you can easily wash these. But I've got my Boston shaker, which is a 2-piece shaker. I prefer to use these only because you'll see when they go together, they actually have more airspace than a traditional shaker. And so you get a lot more air introduction while you're shaking. It helps break the ice up better too, so it gets a really, really chilled cocktail. So Boston shaker. We've got our rocks glass this drink is going to go in. I have a measuring cup or jigger that we use to measure the different ingredients going into it. I have a lime for garnish, and then I've got my hibiscus tea agave syrup pre-made and fresh squeezed lime juice pre-made. So fresh squeezed obviously is the way to go if you've got time to make it. Finally, our most important ingredient here is our Amaro Rosina. So for those of you that have not had this one, it is an aperitivo style Amaro. Aperitivos tend to be lighter styles of Amaro. Typically, these are more citrus forward. The most common brands of aperitivo Amaros are Campari, Aperol, used in spritz cocktails, used in Negronis, Boulevardiers. So a really classic style of Amaro. Ours has its own kind of unique elements of the Northwest, as all of our spirits do. So distilled from 100% Washington-grown apples. We've got fresh grapefruit peel in here, ginger, gentian root, bay leaf, bitter orange, and then Cascade hops, which are super common in the Northwest IPA craze. So, oh, and the name, yes, thank you. Rosina is actually my great-grandmother's name on my mother's side of the family. Also kind of a tie-in to the color as well. Rosa is Italian for red. And so kind of played on that. Our Amaro Mealy also uses a family name, Mealy, my mother's maiden name as well. So yes, a fun little aside there. But starting with the cocktail, we're going to start with the larger end. If you're using a Boston shaker, start with the larger end. And then we're going to get out our measuring cup here. And for this, I'm going to use 1.25 ounces roughly of the Amaro Rosina. So measure that guy out, and then we're going to dump that directly in the large end of the Boston shaker. And if you don't have one of these handy jiggers here that has actually the measuring marks on the inside, I believe a tablespoon is equal to 1 ounce. So you can use that as kind of a frame of reference. I might need to be fact checked on that, but. All right, the next ingredient is our hibiscus tea agave syrup, where we basically infused hibiscus tea into a reduced agave syrup. So we are going to use 1/2 ounce of that. Add that to the same end of your mixing glass. Next, fresh squeezed lime juice. We're just going to use 1/4 ounce of this here. So typically I like to balance my sweet and my acid. The lime tends to be a bit sharper as far as most citrus juices go. So I tend to go a little bit shy on the lime juice as opposed to kind of an equal match of sweet to acid. All right, so I've got everything that I need in the glass here, or in the shaker here. Next, I'm going to grab my ice. So the trick with ice, since all of this ice is not going to be strained out, it's important how much ice you put in this one. So what you want to do is you want to add ice so that it barely covers the top of the spirit that's in there. So you should see maybe 1 ice cube on top that's dry. The rest should be pretty well covered. And that should be the right amount of ice. For this one, it's about 1 large scoop. So next, if you're using a Boston shaker, what we're going to do here is take the smaller end of the Boston shaker, align it on the edge with the larger end, and you want to make sure that edge goes in evenly. So it's really flush against that large sidewall of the large shaker. Once it's in there, give it a good tap like that to seal it. And then we're going to go through kind of a shaking technique. So everyone does this differently, but there's a couple things that are actually important when you're shaking a cocktail. It's not just for show. You do want to chill the drink, and you want to introduce air to it as well. So for the Boston shaker, you need to have one hand that holds your thumb underneath the big part, and then a couple fingers on the little end there. So you're holding both ends here. And then your second, less dominant hand should be on the bottom of the shaker. And when you're doing the shake, you want to make sure the ice is hitting the walls, the top and bottom of the shaker as it goes through. You don't want that ice sitting in the middle. You want to make sure you get to a cadence where it's actually hitting the back and front. That really gets a nice break of the ice and really chills the cocktail down quickly. So I start slow and then kind of build up into a pattern. You get really fancy with it. You go one-handed. The locomotive. All right. So about 10 seconds of shaking should do the trick. If you are using a Boston shaker, these can be a bit tricky to open. So what I like to do is squeeze it about 1/3 of the way down on the larger end. You got to squeeze that real nice and tough, and then wiggle the top here to loosen it up. They do tighten when they get chilled, so that's kind of one trick to get that loose. Now this cocktail is not strained like some of them are, so we're actually going to take the full contents of this shaker and put that into our glass here. So we're using pretty small rocks glasses here at the distillery. Chances are your glass is going to be a little bit larger. So I like to leave roughly, I don't know, 1/2 inch of headspace at the top because we're going to float soda water on this. If you have a much larger glass, what I'd recommend doing is actually adding some ice to it to top it so that you don't dilute the drink too much with soda water. For this size cocktail, I'm adding probably between 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of soda water. So that's really the next step here. I'm going to grab a can of seltzer water here, and I'm just going to top the cocktail like that, and you should get a nice little foam going there. Optional move, you can actually stir this up if you want to incorporate the soda. I like to just leave it as is. I think it's prettier looking that way. So, and then finally, we're going to wrap up with our garnish. So we're going to take a lime just like this guy here. We've got a, I think this is some form of zester.
Citrus ester.
Citrus zester. Something just like this. We're going to do a thin little twist of lime. If you don't have one of these, certainly fine to do a larger swath of lime as well. But you want to make sure you get into a bit of the pith there, so it's going to hold its shape when you twist it. And looking for roughly 3 to 4 inch piece of that lime peel. So something somewhere in this neighborhood there. Then I'm going to tightly coil this with my fingers here. Kind of squeeze it, roll between your fingers a little bit so it holds its shape. And then you can kind of pull it out just like that. And you should have a cute little twist just like that guy, which will hang on the end of the glass. So that is the Pretty in Pink. How are the cocktails looking? Awesome. I'm gonna bring out my taste tester, first taste tester, Helen. Give this a try here. See how I did.
Yeah, I'll see how you did. Oh, it's so good. Rosine is my favorite.
Cheers.
Thank you.
It's all you.
Good job.
Awesome. Cool. Do we have any questions from anyone on the line? Everybody make the cocktail okay? Any complete disasters? Yeah. Feel free to unmute. So.
All right. Shout out to the backyard party over there. Now, there we go. Our bartender's back. How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We're actually in California, so we had to run around and improvise. Unfortunately, I didn't have my Highside stuff with me, so we're really winging it here. But it's still
I appreciate you joining from California. That's awesome.
Kitchen is all that. Yeah, my club soda got shaken up when I was rushing out of the grocery store and exploded all over. So we're having fun.
Awesome. Did you have any? What'd you use for Rosina? Did you use Campari or something like that?
Yeah. Aperol.
Right.
Aperol this time. Yeah.
We have all the good stuff at home.
And I couldn't find agave syrup, so I put turbinado sugar into my cup of hibiscus tea.
Tomorrow.
Still tastes pretty darn good.
Yeah, that would be good as well.
Yeah.
We'll do the other stuff.
I want one of those Boston shakers, though. My wife hates our shaker because she can never get the lid off of it, and that's much better. So I like that.
Yeah, the 3-piece shakers, which are more common, I don't like them because they're 3 pieces, but also I think the Boston shaker actually does a better job mixing the cocktail. So they can be messy. They can leak a little bit more. So
it's a learning curve.
We do have, I think we have a few more of the branded Boston shakers here in the distillery too.
Oh, you do? All right. We'll be back at Bainbridge next week. So
awesome.
Sounds like some of the stuff's lifting, huh? Some of the COVID limitations.
Yeah, so we're going to be part of phase 2. And so Kitsap just barely, I think yesterday, got the go-ahead for phase 2.
Okay.
So we're included in that, which is great. We're not quite equipped, I'd say, to open just yet. So we're going to take this weekend and kind of get things prepped and ready. The goal is to open back up for tastings next weekend.
Oh.
So we'll have to be at 50% capacity, which for those of you that have been to our tasting room before means we can probably have about 2 people in here. So we're going to open up the patio outside.
Oh, good.
Take up a few parking spaces and have some outdoor tables. So
well, that'll be good.
To hopefully resume that next weekend. We're probably not going to be doing cocktails next weekend because there is a law change that goes into effect in 2 weeks, which will actually enable us to do full cocktail service. We can do larger format cocktails. We can also do multiple cocktails, whereas if you came in before, you got capped at kind of that one small cocktail, and that was it. So we'll be able to do that. We'll actually be able to serve other spirits that other Washington producers make. So we can actually serve whiskey in the tasting room. We can serve vermouth and sparkling wine and use those in cocktails, so long as they're made in Washington.
Yeah, I love
So
it.
it's really going to expand what we can do here. It's going to be a while for a whiskey. So being able to use whiskey in some fun cocktails will be fun.
Yeah, I like that Woodinville whiskey. That'd probably be a nice one to have in there.
Yeah, I like the rye.
37 people. How did we let them know that we're doing
Awesome.
the grandma's
Probably
here?
can see us.
I want
They can see us, but I don't know.
Hi, Grandma.
They can hear us right now.
I like your martini glass. That's a nice one. That's the one with the crooked stem, right? Cool.
All right. While we're chatting, I'm going to get the bar set up for the next cocktail here, and we'll start that momentarily.
Yeah, she was talking to me. That's already.
No.
No, it's going through the monitor. Weird.
Do you want to name
I don't
Is
think
it? Nah, okay. Got some water here. I think we're in good shape.
Hey, Matt, during the intermission, can one of your co-hosts say who all is on the line? Seems like you got a lot of family going on here.
Yeah, who we've got on the line?
Yeah, because we can only see, I guess we can see people when they talk, but so we know who's at the party. I see a lot of Matt Glenn's.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. So when people joined, it was defaulted to Matthew Glenn as your entry name. So if you go into that and actually right-click it, go to more, you can change the name to someone else. But I am curious, yeah, who else do we have on the line?
your grandma and aunt and uncles are there.
You have the entire Bobbiak family.
That's everybody.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we got Lauren up in the top. We got Christine, Mark Evans.
You've got Whitney and Olex out here in Chicago.
Love it.
Terrible accent.
This is your family. I want to be adopted. So, yeah, just adopt me into
The one with the recipes. The email.
No.
Oh, this is awesome. Super pumped to have the support. Got a lot of family, a lot of friends, a lot of folks that are fans of Highside, which is great. See a lot of familiar faces from the tasting room as well.
This comes with, we get a free shipment of booze, right? Logging in.
Yeah, working on the details for that. So
Booze is free. The shipping is $300.
No, I heard that. Yeah, booze is free. Shipping $300 to $500 depending on location.
The other one has it too.
We'll cut you a break for Charlotte and Olivia though.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, there's Weston Parents.
All right.
What do we agree on size of our jigger was?
Oh, there's
No.
Mine
Actually,
is
while
discount,
we're
right,
on
Matt?
this last couple minutes of the break here, I would love to get a virtual cheers if we can. Take a quick screenshot, post it on the gram. If you guys don't mind, would love to do that.
We missed it.
What if we already drank it?
That's okay. Just pretend. An empty glass is actually better. That means you're ahead of the rest of us. All right. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for hosting.
Of course.
Cheers, Highside.
It looks like we got something in there. You can't tell probably. 'Cause
just joined.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
All right. So I'm going to get the bar set up now for the Tropical Bee's Knees, which is our mocktail. Don't worry if you are a booze hound and you just have to have another alcoholic drink. You can sub in gin for water and make it equally as fun. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy ready. So we've got our Boston shaker again. I'm using the fresh one this time. We're going to need a strainer for this one. Just a strainer just like this guy here.
Matt, do it like the makeup artist.
Oh, you like this? Here's our Boston shaker, our strainer. We're going to use a stir spoon for this one as well, just to incorporate the soda into the drink. And for this one, I like to use a highball glass. I'm going to use a glass just like this. Any style glass will do. This one's going to be a little bit larger in volume, so just keep that in mind as well. So starting with this guy, I'm going to start with 1.5 ounces of just still water. There's my measuring guy here. So this is where you can make this one not a mocktail, but an actual cocktail if you just sub in gin in place of the water. So 1.5 ounces of that. For this one, we're going to balance the acid and the sweet equally. So we're going to use a 1/2 ounce of a honey simple syrup and a 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. So I'm going to start with the honey simple here. 1/2 ounce of that into the large end of the shaker, and then a 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. So if you're making this mocktail with gin instead of water, if you stopped right here, you'd have a bee's knees. So a bee's knees is equal parts lemon juice and a honey syrup and gin. Really tasty summertime cocktail. We've made that a few times in the tasting room here as well. But we're actually going to keep adding to this one. To make it tropical, we're going to add some pineapple juice. So we're going to add about 1 ounce of pineapple juice to the mix. This one might be a little harder to get fresh squeezed, so it's okay if you got store-bought like we did today. All right, now before I start shaking, I'm going to take the glass that I'm going to be using and I'm going to fill that to the top with ice. Got that there. And the reason I'm doing that is after I shake it, I don't want to be spending time filling the glass with ice while the drink in the shaker is further diluting. So same story with this one, adding enough ice to just barely cover the top of the glass. Oh, question.
Yeah, it's related to the cocktail. So Joseph wants to know if I'm using gin, use 1 ounce instead of the 1.5 ounce of water.
I would use 1.5 ounces. Use the same ratio. So the bee's knees cocktail that we do in the tasting room is 1.5 ounces gin, 1/2 ounce honey, 1/2 ounce lemon. Got everything all shaken up there. And now immediately after you're done shaking, you're going to put your strainer in the shaker like this, and you're going to strain this drink into that fresh ice. So you want clean ice for this one here. All right, and I've left enough headspace there that I can get my soda water in there. What I like to do for these, just to incorporate the soda, I'll actually put the stir stick in before I add the soda, so I'm not pushing spirit out of the glass. Top that guy with soda there, and then give it a nice little delicate swirl there. And for this, we're going to garnish with a lemon peel. And we're actually going to do a wider swath of lemon. Actually, Mom, can I get the cutting board? I'm going to show you a little trick to do some very pretty garnishes. So with this wider peel here, I'm going to definitely dig in here deep to get a good amount of that pith and get a nice wide piece of it. And then to get that really pretty garnish that you see in cocktail bars, actually just take that on a cutting board and really trim up the edges nice. So you want that piece in the center that's got the really thick part of the pith to be the part that you keep. And so I'm going to trim that on all 4 sides with a sharp knife. If you're really fancy, you can use a ruler and get it perfect. So I've got that nice, perfectly rectangular piece. And then I'm going to actually twist that over the glass to get some of that zest in there. But this is going to be not quite as tight of a spiral as that lime, but still twisting it like that, rolling it back and forth to get that curl. And then you've got your nice little lemon peel there that you can gently rest on the top of your glass like that. So, yeah, cocktail taster.
Yeah, for
Sadly,
those of
you got one of the
for those of you that know me, I'm drinking in the background, so I probably do need the mocktail.
Nice.
He approves, and there was no booze in it, so that is really saying something for Jeff.
I got headspace in my glass. I can pour some gin in there.
You can float some gin in there for sure. All right, so I want to take folks off mute. I think we're done with the mocktail there.
Sure.
While I get things set up.
I unmuted it.
How did the
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have to eat. We're gonna be too drunk.
how did the mocktail turn out? Did anyone actually make the mocktail?
Yes.
No, we used gin.
Oh.
We use gin.
Oh, we used gin.
The Mealy clan did.
Yeah.
Turn out okay?
Louise and Simon.
It's very light.
We used gin.
You used gin?
Yeah.
We used the gin.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Always the gin.
Alex
So
used
not
to
Matthew
baby,
Glenn,
but
right?
she's bashful.
Don't taste that gin.
I accidentally used water and gin by putting some champagne.
Who is also not Matthew Glenn? I love it. Oh. Nah, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah. Not too
Angie Brady, how's it going?
Might work out.
Why?
Maybe like regular ice.
Ask Angie, she made a mocktail.
Yeah, Angie, did you make the mocktail?
No.
No, that's
Simon and Louise, how's it going?
good. My lemon twist didn't quite work out.
That's okay. It's the thought that counts.
Yeah, that's a British version of the lemon
I
twist.
tried, but the drink we had a gin.
Lots of gin. Always a lot of gin.
Awesome.
Wait, you're gonna have to spike.
Actually, I'm going to use it for the next cocktail, so we're good.
Celeste commented that she didn't have pineapple juice, so she muddled fresh pineapple. Maybe on a
Oh, nice.
Fun idea to
Who was
tell
that?
the group. Celeste.
Celeste, so you actually muddled fresh pineapple instead of the pineapple juice. That's awesome. Showing me up on my own cocktail class. That's great. With this actual cocktail, it's kind of fun because you can really sub in anything. I like using the lemon and the honey. I think those are a good balance. But then on top of that,
I like.
really
I like.
any juice works.
We said, are we on mute?
No.
Well, cool. Well, a couple updates on our end, just to share. We have a couple new products in the works. Our next product, most likely that'll be released, is going to be our barrel gin. So, no label on it, so it's not super sexy right now. But this is actually going to be a blended barrel gin. So we took our first ever batch of gin, put that into a used bourbon barrel from Four Roses Bourbon. Let that rest in there actually for 14 months. So it was in there for over a year. We took another barrel of our gin. I think it was batch 7 or 8 of our gin. Put that into a freshly charred oak barrel, kind of traditional for aging new bourbon, and let that rest for about 8 months. And so we actually blended the two together. It's a really nice blend. The new oak, really, really rich vanilla, toffee, caramel, and the used oak, super kind of that nice bourbon caramel character as well. So it's a really nice blend. We're going to get ready to proof that and working on labels right now. So that'll be the next in the queue. Pretty excited about that. Oh yeah, and then the other one, that's why I brought this up, is this one right here is actually what's going to become our pink gin. And so many of you, if you've been to the distillery before, we've talked about the collaboration we did with Eagle Harbor Winery. So we actually took one of their old Petite Syrah wine barrels, put a batch of our gin in it, and it turned this really bright pink color initially from the wine. As it sat in there longer and longer, it actually, we think, picked up some of the oak character as well, not just the wine that had been saturated into the wood. And so it actually turned it more of like a darker brown. So you can see it's actually this guy here. It's no longer this pink color that we were expecting. And so we're actually trialing a bunch of different fruit and herb macerations. So we might actually do this as a macerated gin. We're looking at cherry, fig. We have some fresh rose petal from the Northwest that's coming in next week. We're going to try as well. So this will be a really kind of fun, unique style of gin, which we're pretty pumped about. But that one's probably further out. I'd say looking more realistically like next spring. It's a good idea. Poll for what we should include in the maceration. Cool. All right. I think we get prepped and move on to the Amaro Sour. So excuse me while I get this station all set up here. This is going to be our technical challenge as compared to the others. So for this one, you also have a couple of options. We are either going to use an egg white, which I will be using today, or you can use aquafaba. So if you want a vegan alternative to using an egg white in a cocktail, aquafaba, which is essentially just the leftover juice in a can of chickpeas. So you got a can of chickpeas in the cabinet, feel free to use that. I think the egg white does a slightly better job of foaming, and that's really what its intended purpose is. It's more of a textural element. The egg white and the aquafaba contribute this really nice body and foam, ultimately, which we get from the dry shake. So I'm going to use egg white. I've got my lemon juice here and my Demerara syrup. I like to use Demerara because it's a bit of a richer sugar as opposed to pure cane sugar.
What glass, Matt?
Great question.
Repeat the question.
The question was, what type of glass am I going to use? For this one, I'm actually going to use another rocks glass. Equally, for this one, it is going to be served up as opposed to on the rocks. And so it's better to have a smaller glass for this if you have it. A coupe glass is actually my preferred glass. We sadly don't have any here, but it's kind of like a rounded martini glass. A martini glass would work equally well. We have kind of mini rocks glasses, so I'm going to use that for this one. I've got my strainer here, the measuring jigger here, and my Amaro Mealy. So we're good to go. All right, so for this one, same process. This is still a shaken cocktail, but this is going to employ the dry shake. So the dry shake is essentially shaking without ice, and the purpose of doing that is to really get that foam. So we're going to do that with the egg white, create the foam, then add the ice, shake it again to chill it. So that's why this one's a bit more complex. Especially with the Boston shaker, this has a tendency to leak a little bit when you're shaking without ice. But to start this one, our Amaro Mealy is what we're going to be using first here. So I'm going to use 1.5 ounces of that. This is a pretty classic sour recipe. And so you've probably heard of like a whiskey sour or even a gin sour. This recipe works great for Amaro, which we're using today, but also works great in a whiskey sour, gin sour, vodka sour, whatever base spirit you want to use. So if you don't have Amaro Mealy and you'd like to make this, just sub in the exact same proportion of another spirit, and it works just as good. Almost as good. Good point. All right, so 1.5 ounces of the Amaro Mealy. We're going to go for a 1/2 ounce of the Demerara syrup. And then a 1/2 ounce of our lemon juice. Now, if I'm using the aquafaba, I would also add a 1/2 ounce of aquafaba. But since I'm not, I'm using an egg white. I'm going to actually...
I gotta watch this.
Yeah, I don't crack eggs too often, so we're going to see how this goes. I'm actually going to be bold and do it over the shaker. So if I screw up, I have to make another one. Look at that. Pro.
Modest.
Make your mama proud.
Yeah, they don't teach that in school, all right? So, 1 full egg white and that guy there. And now we are ready to do the dry shake. So, no ice. Same method, putting this guy in here. For this, I tend to really bang down on this a couple times because it does tend to leak.
Yeah, it takes pliers to get it open.
Yeah. Does make it tough to get open. So for the dry shake, the key to this is you're going to shake it for a long period of time, and you're going to shake it very, very vigorously. So you definitely want the liquid to be hitting both ends of the shaker. You know, if you need a couple sets of hands to get in and really shake this good, do it. But yeah, you should go for about 10 to 15 seconds of a vigorous shake. So I'm going to start with one hand. I might have to switch hands here in a minute.
Great.
All right, we'll switch hands. Ooh. And notice that sometimes does build a little bit of pressure. So just be careful when you're lifting that off. If you stop and then you reshake, just make sure you seal it again before starting to reshake. So far, I'm not leaking. I'm probably going to jinx myself here. Try a few different shaking techniques here.
Matt, have you already added the egg white?
Yes. Yeah, so all the ingredients are in here. We have the Amaro, the Demerara syrup, the lemon juice, the egg white.
You need to flex when you
So we're
shake.
shaking that all together to get it really nice and foamy. So crack the top there. You should see quite a bit of foam in there if you did it right. If not, close the lid, keep shaking. So since there's no ice in there, there's no harm in shaking as long as you need to get that foam. But it should take about 10 to 15 seconds. Then after I've got the dry shake done, what I'm going to do is add my ice. Just do one large scoop. That should be enough to get this chilled. I'm going to close my shaker again and then do a second shorter shake. This one can be like 5 to 10 seconds. And this is really just intended to cool it. All right. Break the shaker open. And now this one is strained. So you want to serve this one up. Up meaning there's no ice in the glass. So I'll take my rocks glass here. I'm going to pour out this guy here. It's got a really pretty color. It almost looks like a very light latte.
You have a fight over who gets to taste it.
And then you'll see over time that foam is going to rise. You're going to have that nice brown layer of the Amaro and then that foam layer sitting on top. Now before they get into sampling, which they're eager to do, we're going to get our garnish ready here. So for this one, I'm going to garnish with an orange peel as well as a maraschino cherry. So similar to the lemon what we just did, take that wide peeler there, get a nice fat piece of orange. Make sure to get plenty of pith in there. Then we're going to take that on my cutting board, cut a nice square piece so it looks pretty, or rectangular piece, thank you. For this one, I'm actually going to stream the cherry through the orange. So what I'm going to do is I get the peel side of the orange. I'm going to push my skewer through that. Then I'm going to grab one of my maraschino cherries. You don't have to go this in depth with the garnish, but that's how we do it here in the tasting room. So I'm going to take that maraschino cherry. We love these Luxardo brands. If you haven't had this type of maraschino cherry, which is this guy right here, a little more expensive, but they are definitely worth the investment. So then I've got my cherry on there, and then the top, I'm just going to wrap around with the other side of the orange, just like that. Nice little skewer, and then place that gently on the glass. So you can already see that layer of foam is starting to separate, get that drink really nice and creamy. And the cherry.
Jessica, do you want to be the taster?
I think we should let
Yeah,
the viewers vote. Who gets it, Helen or Jeff?
Yeah, can we get a vote going? You can turn the mute on.
I got the alcoholic drink. You got the one. So who gets the drink?
Helen or Jeff for this drink? Or me. I haven't had a drink yet.
It's like Angie wants to go.
I wanted to say too, we have some friends, Sarah and Damon, that brought us cherries too. So these are awesome.
Yeah,
to
those
use
would work
as
great.
well.
Homemade.
Those would work.
So if you
perfect.
have friends called Sarah and Damon, they have cherries.
Okay. Their address is.
We got one vote for Jeff.
Okay, we'll fight over the drink off screen. Thanks, Matt.
We need to see you taste it.
Oh.
Please give me your opinion.
Whitney also said Jeff, but Christine says Helen.
Thanks, Christine.
Oh man, yeah, the foam's awesome. That's perfect. You got to drink it off screen because that's not. Well,
She's not actually drinking it.
We're trying to practice social distancing, but we kind of live together, so it's probably okay.
Oh,
Gross.
that foam is really
Yeah,
good.
the foam's off. Yeah, the egg is so much, but you know, if you're vegan, it's cool. But the egg white.
Yeah, the egg white definitely does
a
better foam.
Big difference.
But,
Really close, but look, the foam grew. Oh no!
Angie and Brady are chatting about theirs.
I'm
How'd it turn out, Angie and Brady?
Brady did great on his foam.
Looks
It tastes
good.
It is good.
I haven't seen many more sours. How are the sours turning out? Oh, Wit and Alex looking good.
Alex made this, okay?
She was yelling on mute.
Nice. So for this one, I used the carton egg whites. Not quite as the same, but it wasn't too bad actually.
That's probably the same.
Yeah, I've actually never tried that before.
Yeah, I didn't want to like get a whole dozen eggs just to make one drink.
They're pretty.
What with what?
He just used
it tastes good.
egg white.
Well, that's pasteurized. So
Yeah.
that's
I do like that a lot.
He's
We should do a vote
Like a
for
multiple
each of this bar background.
quite good.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad we have
Show your bar background.
What was that syrup? Which one's that? That's the agave syrup?
Oh, nice. Simon, that looks good.
Yeah, good.
That was garbanzo bean.
Oh, somebody have one at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, very good.
Lisa wants to know if anyone used garbanzo beans.
Yeah, we did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the other.
You guys did? Awesome. How'd it turn out?
Good. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, I found with that, so long, I mean, I usually use about a half ounce of the aquafaba. It really doesn't impart any taste unless you use a lot more. So yeah, it's just harder to get the foam.
The texture's good.
Awesome.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers. Happy Friday.
Yeah.
The Negroni or the first one?
I don't know.
I don't think they had a pinky drink.
I think it was the first one.
What does the baby like?
Yeah, what is the baby like?
Is it a boy or a girl?
First time I've tried the Amaro Sour. It's really good.
That's really different.
Like years in the back. Yeah.
So basically, you can make that with
I'm jealous.
any liquor.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's basically a standard sour recipe.
Did anyone use anything other than Amaro? Did anyone make like a whiskey sour, or are they planning to make one?
I couldn't find an Amaro that was comparable to the one that you guys have, so I ended up just kind of using a little bit of the sweet vermouth, and I thought it was going to be nasty, but it actually ain't too bad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that, but I can imagine it'd be good. Yeah, with the citrus kind of cutting the Amaro sweetness.
Yeah, it still tasted pretty good.
Very good, very good.
Hey Matt, is there anywhere we can get the recipes? I'm still at work, but I wanted to be able to go home and make them. Is there anywhere I can get the recipes?
Absolutely, yeah. Recipes for all these are on the website, actually. So, highsidedistilling.com/cocktails.
Even the
Weren't they also
mocktails?
in the email that you sent?
You're right. Actually, the mocktail is not on there, but I will get that added for sure.
Okay, perfect. I think I missed the second one, so that'd be awesome. And I also have a couple of coworkers on here, so I think they're really interested in that. So good job. It was fun.
Sweet. Awesome.
Hey, Matt, I see you're recording too. How much do we have to bribe you to get a copy of the recording?
True.
For what?
Recording.
Oh, the recording. Yeah. Yeah. If you all are interested in the recording, I can certainly send that out to the folks that join for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to do that when I have more Highside stuff in front of me. I'd like to kind of redo the class. So yeah, that'd be cool.
Love it.
Now we just need to get you to ship to California.
Yeah, shipping out of state's a bit of a challenge. We're trying to figure that out. Yeah, we need to work that out with each individual state. I think most likely California is probably going to be the next one that we start shipping to, because we've got a lot of folks in California. So
I'll volunteer to be a moonshine runner for you guys if you want to just work it out that way.
What was that? Sorry.
Same.
I'll be your moonshine runner. You just load up my pickup and I'll just drive down to California every now and then.
All right.
The Gonzalez
Yeah.
is real
We
too.
can do that.
Okay.
We'll work out an arrangement.
Yep.
Are there any cops on here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe-
Utah, unfortunately, I know we get a lot of folks on the phone from Utah. Sadly, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So.
They can come to my house and pick it up.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing that we're working on that I wanted to mention too, we're working on a Carchofo style Amaro. So if anyone's super familiar with Amaro, Cynar, C-Y-N-A-R, is probably the most common brand of Carchofo Amaro. Carchofo actually means artichoke in Italian. So it's characterized by the infusion of artichoke. So it's a really unique style of Amaro. Cynar is a pretty rich style. It's really, really tasty. So we've been doing some infusions with that. We've got a few of them here. We're trialing. We haven't nailed it just yet, so we still got some work to do. But this is our artichoke leaf maceration that we're messing around with. We've got, this one's dill. We have arugula as well, which actually has a really nice green color to it. So potentially our next spirit in the stable will be something green. Cool. All right. Well, we're at 5:48 right now. Let's get making the final cocktail, the classic Negroni. So we're finishing off with the classic here. So for this one, it's actually going to be our stirred cocktail. So mixing glass for this one is key. Having a bar spoon for this one as well. Going right here. Also going to need our measuring guy here. Going to need a strainer. Orange for garnish, and I think that pretty much covers all my equipment. And then as far as ingredients go for this one, we're going to be using two of our spirits. We're going to be using a gin, as well as our Amaro Rosina. Now, typical Negroni recipe calls for equal parts, one ounce of gin, Campari, and sweet vermouth. And so since our Amaro Rosina is very similar in style to Campari in that it's an aperitivo, we're using that in place of Campari. And in place of sweet vermouth, what we have traditionally done here at the distillery is use a reduced plum syrup. So if you can find plum juice, it's kind of hard to come by, but if you can find it, we just put that on a stovetop and boil it until it reduces by about half volume, so it's a bit more viscous. This is the stuff that we use. It's I think the brand name is Pomona, but you can actually find it on Amazon. So,
Or in the maternity ward.
What was that?
Or in the maternity ward. They serve it there.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Didn't know that, but if you can score us some, that'd be great. If you're not going to use plum syrup, you can also use sweet vermouth, which is more traditional. I'm actually going to use sweet vermouth today. I don't necessarily do the traditional recipe of 1:1:1. I tend to use equal parts of the gin and the Rosina, and then I go half part of the sweet vermouth. I tend to like my cocktails a bit less sweet, so I err on the side of less vermouth. So we're going to get these ingredients going in our mixing glass. So I'm going to go 1 ounce of gin. And then I'm going to go with 1 ounce of our Amaro Rosina. And our Rosina is sitting at about 70 proof, so it's actually quite high for an aperitivo style. Typically, aperitivos are a lot lower in alcohol. You'll notice if you're using Aperol or if you're using Campari, it's going to be a lot lower in alcohol. So this drink will pack a punch. And then we're going to use a ½ ounce of sweet vermouth or a ½ ounce of that reduced plum syrup if you got it. Now in the recipe I sent out, I also used 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. I use that when I'm using the plum syrup. The vermouth kind of already has a bitter character to it, so I don't end up using any bitters when I'm using the vermouth. So if you're using the plum syrup, you can add 2 dashes of Angostura. If not, I would just stick to the vermouth. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is fill up our mixing glass with ice. Kind of similar story to our shaker. We might use a bit more ice in this case. You should be able to see roughly how much ice I'm adding here. So a little above where the liquid line falls. Now the stirring technique, this is what gets a little bit challenging. So you want to take your bar spoon like this. The back end of the spoon, you want to keep glued to the side wall of the glass. So kind of start slowly, but you want to try and keep the back wall of that, or the back of the spoon against the side of the glass. And the reason you're doing that is if you start kind of stirring all aggressively like this, you're going to introduce air, and you're going to break up the ice, which is what you don't want to do. So the purpose of stirring as opposed to shaking is that you want to chill the drink without nearly as much dilution and as much water added. So we just want that ice to kind of gently touch the cocktail without actually breaking up and diluting the drink. This technique does take some time to get used to, so you can start slow. Usually if I'm going at a medium speed like this, I'll stir it for between 10 and 15 seconds until the outside of the glass is nice and cold. All right, now I'm going to get a rocks glass as well for this. Now that I'm nice and chilled here, put my strainer in there, and then I'm just going to strain this. I'm going to serve my Negroni up. This is one of those cocktails that can go very easily either way, so it kind of depends on what your preference is. If you do serve it up, I really prefer to use a large ice cube, so it kind of slows down the dilution a bit. If you're using smaller ice, it'll dilute the drink a bit too much. And we all want a stiff drink right now, so. All right. And then garnish for this one here, we're also going to use a nice big orange swath here. And what's key for the Negroni is that you get that zest in the drink. So I'm going to take that and you're going to squeeze so that you're pushing the zest on the outside of the peel directly in the glass. You should see that mist kind of come out. And then you're going to take that, the side that you just squeezed, and rub that on the inside of the glass there to really get all that orange oil within the glass. Then you can leave the peel in or you can take it out. I think it looks kind of pretty with the peel in there, so we'll leave it in. And there is your Highside Negroni. Cheers. Cheers.
Who got the last one?
Me?
Oh.
We both did.
Fight, 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 fight.
All right.
You got the last one, didn't you?
We both did. I've been drinking.
Actually, off camera, Helen kicked my ass, so I get this one. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice job.
Made it double. Perfect. Yes.
Awesome.
That's the way to do it.
Good amount of bitter, sweet.
Pass the test. So the Negroni, it's great with our gin. That's my favorite way to drink it. You can mix it up and do different spirits in there. If you use whiskey in place of gin, that's Perrier. Really tasty. My favorite recently is mezcal. I'll just sub in equal parts mezcal in place of gin. The smoke and kind of earthiness from the mezcal really goes well with the bitterness from the Amaro. How'd we do? How was the Negroni?
Yay.
Really good.
Cheers.
Awesome. Lots of thumbs up.
Brady had a bit of an accent when he was dumping training.
We've got a little twist for you. We've been putting, instead of an orange twist, a little bit of mint in there.
Oh.
And it's really, if you get like nice fresh mint, you breathe in a little bit as you drink it, and it's just really nice crisp taste.
Nice. I love fresh mint. I've never tried that in a Negroni. I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah, Melina's been going a bit heavy on the Negronis recently, so we've been trying to switch them up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's so good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody else do any fun riffs on the Negroni?
I'm just thinking it might be fun to put like a sprig of thyme in there or something too, kind of make it a little herbal.
You say time?
You say time? Oh, nice. Really good one. Someone made a double. Love it.
Just talk to the couples though. I wonder how making the
Can you turn mine on? No.
So you'll notice the one spirit that we didn't touch today was our Fernet. So we made the Negroni with our gin. We made the Pretty in Pink with the Amaro Rosina, as well as the Negroni with the Amaro Rosina. Amaro Sour with the Amaro. And the Fernet, classic way to drink Fernet is just straight. So this is your final free cocktail of the day. We're just going to pour around it Fernet because I didn't get to sample these cocktails. So
Is that your brand of Fernet there? Is that a house?
We're sleeping at the distillery now.
Are you going to tell everybody to do cheers here?
We have a big fan here, Matt.
Bartender's answer for it.
The baby? Aww.
Aww. Is that Shiloh or Olivia?
This one's Shiloh.
I can't tell from this
Oh,
angle.
and that
It's
one's
a
Olivia.
tiny screen.
Baby's first drink.
Oh my god. Did they try the mocktail?
This one, no.
We put gin in the mocktail.
This, yeah, we put gin in it.
They're just going straight for the booze?
Yeah.
Parents want to sleep.
Yeah. Love it.
Give them a little.
All right, I got a round of
Yeah, get everybody in here.
Fernet drinks in here.
Now we're on-
Production crew, please come in.
Yeah.
You guys, oh, she's staying there.
You can't see us, so we need to change it.
Oh, you can't see
Well,
it.
looks like our timing was just about right on. Just want to thank everyone again for showing your support. What's that?
Messages. Oh, I was reading the
Oh, yeah.
messages. Sorry.
Thanks.
Maddie and Tucker.
Sorry, I was reading the messages.
No, but seriously, thanks again, everyone, for your support. This is awesome. I think it's great to see everybody's faces here. Hopefully, we'll do this again at some point in the future, and hopefully get to see you all in person here pretty soon. So, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Class of 2020. Oh.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
By the way, none of us are wearing pants.
TMI. TMI.
Claire.
We can't take him anywhere.
Yeah.
Great job, Matt.
Oh, we got another baby. Lauren, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Oh, great. Oh, so cute.
This is Charlie.
Charlie, that's right. Hey, Charlie.
Hi. Yeah.
We're done.
Thanks for the awesome class.
No driving now. No driving.
Anybody got a beer?
We're sleeping here tonight, so
Yeah.
we're good.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Too bad.
Yeah.
We can't, do a,
Hi, everybody.
distillery.
Well, thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your weekend,
Thank
and hopefully see you
you.
around here pretty soon.
Thank
All right.
you.
Nice job, man.
Love you all.
Bye, guys. Bye.
I know you.